Saturday, February 17th, and welcome to On My Way to My Shop. I was hoping to be able to put the top down on my SL 500 today and do a little top-down cruising, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It's kind of a wet, cold, drizzly day. So yeah, top's not coming down, but let me tell you about last week's cruise. We went on the Mercedes-Benz Club Sweetheart Cruise and we had a lot of fun, and the weather was very nice. Approximately 30 members of the Seattle section of the Mercedes-Benz Club met up in Bellingham, and we drove down beautiful Chuckanut Drive to Chuckanut Manor, and we had this fantastic breakfast buffet. The food was absolutely amazing. And of course, being a sweetheart cruise, I got to bring along my two sweethearts, my daughter Kaya and my wife Lynn, and after eating we went off to visit the oyster farm. We got a nice tour and we learned all about how oysters are harvested in this area and some of the unique characteristics of the gooey duck. We left the oyster farm, went on down to Bow. So what do you think? And then we got to walk around, go to the bread farm, and what we saw when we pulled in there and parked next to a really old Mercedes-Benz.
Is it a Finny?
Look at the trunk, see what's on the back. It's probably a 200D.
Come over and take a picture in front of it.
And so it's a 200D. Look at that.
200D. It's exact.
And then it was off to the goat farm. Oh, that was fun. We got to learn all about goats. They have some really unique characteristics, and some of those things were really quite interesting looking. And there were some very unique cars that came along on this cruise, and let me show those to you now. And this W113 has a 5-speed manual transmission. Not often you'll see a 300E in this condition. This car only has 45,000 miles on it. You look inside, it looks like you're in the showroom years ago, and right behind it is a 560 SEL with just a little over 50,000 miles. So after visiting the goat farm, we're heading back. It's just been a beautiful drive through the Skagit Valley here.
We need to make a fire.
Well, look at this. I got out to the farm just an hour later and the weather broke. But I left the SL home and drove one of my other cars instead. You know, I was also hoping that maybe I could fly one of my model airplanes later today, but I'm looking at this wind, and unless this wind dies down, I think I'll be working inside most of the day. Today in the shop, I want to work on 2 DIY combo kits, and by combo kits I mean providing everything the home mechanic will need to fix a couple of really common problems on these older Mercedes-Benzes. One, of course, is rust. You know, even if you don't have a car that's been in a rusty area, there are times you're going to find rust on these models, you know, 1990 and older, in particular the W123, the W116, the W126, and the R107. And one of the reasons is because they put this real heavy rubberized undercoating under the cars, and that's great because it helps to deaden sound, but it also creates a problem. And this is the kit I want to develop today, giving the Mercedes enthusiast everything he will need to fix the problem I'm going to show you here shortly. I would say in at least 8 out of 10 Mercedes that haven't been garage kept, even if they're not in a rust salt area like the Midwest or East Coast, you're probably going to find some rust right in this corner here because of the water coming off that tire. If the car is particularly in a wet environment like the Pacific Northwest. We don't have road salt, but we have a lot of rain, so I'm going to probe around on this. I think you're going to be surprised what you see right here because this is a very common problem. So the first thing you want to get is a good scraping tool. If you don't have a tool like this, you know, a putty knife might work, but you're going to get under this loose undercoating here and start peeling it back. Let's see what we find in here. Now, if it doesn't come real easy, you can tap this with a hammer, but I think I may be able to get this off. You see what I mean by trapping moisture in behind the rubberized undercoating? I think I'd rather not have undercoating. Now fortunately, it hasn't gone so bad that you're talking structure here. You know, if this were really rusted through all under here on the attach point to this trailing arm, you could not fix this with Miracle Paint and fiberglass cloth. You would have to do a lot of welding. But in this case, we just have a weak metal and a rust hole. And then of course I'll get over here and break this off because we're going to have to get some Miracle Paint in here and protect this as well. Now fortunately it doesn't look like we've got any rust through on the jack point. It looks pretty solid. I'll get a center punch and poke around on it here in a little bit. But this doesn't look too bad. I think I caught this early enough and we're going to be able to fix this so it will not continue to rust. We've got some up here too. Probably have to pull this trim piece off to really get to that. So you see, what we've got in here is rust that's forming on the inside, so I may even open up this hole. We'll look at the other side, which I've already opened up, but we want to get in here, clean this out, and also apply Miracle Paint down in here, and particularly on the back side, because there's rust in here, and even though you repair it on the outside, if you don't stop the corrosion going on in here, you may have rust coming through the back side in the future. So we're going to get really creative, and using a series of brushes and extensions, we're going to really try to get in here and coat this. If I have to, I will even enlarge the hole. So here you can see in just a few minutes, I opened this entire damaged area up that's rusty. I used a scraper. I used a hammer when I needed to break some of this away. My goal now is to clean this back until I'm about a ½ inch, at least a ½ inch up into clean metal, and get all this rust cleaned off. I don't have to get every spot of rust off, but I certainly have to get all this loose scale off before I apply the Miracle Paint. Now let me show you what I'm working on as far as what the kit is going to contain, because I'm not going to get this rust repair done today. This is going to be over a 3 or 4 day period during next week when I'll shoot a full instructional video on how to do this step by step. Let me give you a rundown of what this kit includes. Now you can see why I kind of call it a combo kit. At the heart of this kit is this knotted end brush. Now I've used a lot of tools to try to get that body undercoating cleaned off and that heavy rust removed in preparation for the repairs I'm going to show you, but this is the best one I've ever found. It's small enough, only 1 inch in diameter, and the wire is really thick. You can get in there and really eat that rust out and really cut through that body undercoating really fast. So that tool is included. This tool here is a rust stripper. It's a very coarse, heavy, and flexible mesh that just really cleans off the areas that are kind of flat and smooth that are rusty. You want to use this tool as much as you can. This tool tends to wear because it's designed to wear and continue cutting. And this tool doesn't hardly wear at all, even going after some really serious rust. So along with those two tools, I'm going to include a couple square feet of fiberglass cloth and mesh. This is enough to do a couple of these type of repairs. I'm going to give you 3 pairs of gloves. That's correct, 3 pair, because you need to use gloves anytime you're working with Miracle Paint. I'm going to include 4 paintbrushes because every time you use Miracle Paint with a paintbrush, you have to throw these away. Do not, I repeat, do not try to clean these. You're just wasting your time. And then I'm going to give a pint of Miracle Paint, which is more than adequate for maybe 2 or 3 of the type of repairs under these fender wells. And then finally, this is a really unique product. This is called a chip guard. It's for rocker panels. It's not a body undercoating. It dries extremely hard. It's paintable. And this is what I use to create the texture on top of the rust repair. So if you do this right, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot tell there's ever been a repair done in that area. And of course, if you get the color of the car and spray it properly underneath there, you can really disguise the repair. But this is really something. It really helps to seal out any future moisture. It's not a body undercoating. It's more like a really tough, hard paint that comes out in a texture format. So that's what's in the kit, and you're going to have to provide a couple things. You need a dust mask, you need eye protection, you're going to need some sort of scraper, And you remember I said I use a hammer when I'm hitting that loose rust and undercoating. And then you're going to need some sort of electric drill. I prefer corded drills for this. You know, you can use a rechargeable drill, but they tend to not run fast enough. I like to see a drill at least 2,500 RPM. And of course, the corded drill with a handle really makes this work easily, because you're going to be putting some real force into this knotted end brush in particular. So it's nice to have a drill with a handle on it, because you're going to be really getting into it. So that's what the kit includes, and also it will come with complete video instructions as I walk you step by step on doing one of these repairs on an old Mercedes W126. Every once in a while we get to mess around with a milling machine doing things that probably no one else has ever done on a milling machine. Does anybody want to venture a guess as to what we're doing right here today? The other kit I want to finalize in the shop today is my multi-tool combo kit. You know, over the last couple years, I have become a huge fan of this tool right here. You know, I used to use it in the past for woodworking projects or building projects or things around the house, but I never realized how handy this tool could be for automotive applications. And over the last 3 or 4 years, I've developed 3 separate kits which really utilize the high-speed vibration of this multi-tool to do certain things on your old cars. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to package all 3 of these kits together with one multi-tool. The multi-tool will fit all of these kits, and if you want to learn more about this, rather than going over it in this Saturday video, I'm just going to mention this, and I'll put some links below if you want to see what I'm doing with this. But right now, today, you know me, when it comes to detailing, I just have to see if I'm going to be able to polish out the anodized aluminum trim on Fritz here. Now, it's so funny, I get all these people saying, well, why don't you try this polish, or this polish works real well. I think a lot of the people who put those comments down maybe have never really polished. Severely faded, I'm talking about severely faded, milky, anodized aluminum trim on a Mercedes-Benz. This is not normal aluminum. It's not like polishing an aluminum wheel. This stuff is unbelievable. And you know, a number of years ago, I went through all kinds of fits trying to figure out how to polish this out, and it really came down to a special compound I developed and the multi-tool. But I need to warn you, not all anodized aluminum trim is salvageable. We've had a couple people complain, you know, I didn't polish my trim while it was so severely deteriorated with acid rain and corrosion that you just can't restore it. So I'm going to do a test section right here. I want to see if this is going to come out. This is really faded. I'll bring the camera in here and I'll show you a little section. And then I'm going to go after it with my kit for polishing anodized aluminum trim. And then I'm going to see if this, hey, you know, I've got some fun I can do for the rest of the, you know me and detailing, okay? Sometimes it's really difficult to show this on a camera, but I think I've got a pretty good angle. I think I've got the light on this so you can see it. You can see that milky faded color in this anodized aluminum, and you think, well, that's just on the surface, I'm just going to polish it out. So I've got my special pad attached to the multi-tool. I've applied a little bit of the Miracle paste to that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rub this around a little bit before I actually turn the tool on. Okay. You can see how having that tip really helps get down in the grooves on some of this aluminum. Okay, I'm going to have to apply a little more polish. Sometimes you have to be a little patient. Sometimes this will take 2 or 3 applications, but this doesn't look too bad. Let me get a rag and we'll wipe that down and see if you can see the comparison. Okay, you can see I've started to get it off the top right there, but I've still got a little right down in here. So I'm going to have to go back at it with the tip and try to get right down in that groove. This tool, you need to stop and check. Don't overheat this head or you'll burn the rubber and destroy its ability to hold on to fabric. Okay, look at that. Now we're getting there. Here you can see the part I polished. That looks almost factory brand new, and then come up right about here, you can see where I stopped, and then you can begin to see that milky faded coloring going on up this trim piece. So I'm excited. I'm going to be able to successfully polish all this trim on Fritz here. But I have to warn you, this is one detailing job that requires a lot of patience. But the results are well worth it. Look what I hauled into the shop today from the warehouse. I'm getting these ready to be inspected next week when my crew gets in here. But you recognize those? Those are all ignition tumbler assemblies. And why am I looking at these today, or why am I sorting these? Take a look at this video. Well, we're back here in the shop doing the same old thing we always do, checking parts, checking quality control. You know, I really feel sorry for people that buy ignition lock parts on eBay or from another vendor, and then they go to put them in and everything locks up, because then you have a big problem. Look at some of this stuff we have to deal with. Here's a tumbler assembly that's broken, and this came right out of the box. And we also have these new ignition lock assemblies, very nicely made, but they have all these little quirks to them. And if we don't completely assemble these units and test them, they're going to go in a car and the owner's going to turn the key and everything's going to lock up, and then you have what's called a big wrench dent. So here we are once again, checking, testing, rechecking, making sure we send out parts to our customers at work. So you can understand and get a little miffed. I think one of the most difficult things about running this business is quality control, because nobody else is doing it, all right? Now, this past week, I discovered something and came up with a twist to a product that we have developed. I think we're the only ones in the world that have this. But look at this. I now have a brand new ignition lock assembly with the tumbler assembly custom installed for the R107 450 SL and 450 SLC. These tumblers are no longer available, and I'm really proud that we're able to machine this and offer it to our customers. Of course, it comes with the black cap already installed. All you have to do is put your own ignition switch on it and install it in your 107. We also offer brand new ignition switches as a separate purchase, and I recommend you probably go ahead and put a new switch in if you're going to all the trouble to replace a steering lock or a tumbler that's giving you fits because it's either sticking or it's already stuck once or twice. Remember, anytime you experience a sticking key in your older Mercedes, you better fix it or you'll get stuck. By the way, how do you like that for a pun? I want to show you the model that I was going to fly today, and of course you saw the wind out there. Now, if any of you have flown a model RC airplanes, you know you can fly them in wind. I'm not afraid of wind. But 25 to 30 mile an hour winds with this airplane right now. This is a biplane, but notice here it's a ultra micro. We're talking really, really small, okay? So let me show this to you. I picked this up at the RC swap meet a couple weeks ago. So it's already been flown. And look at this. Comes in its own special box, you see. That's real handy when you're carrying this around because it is kind of fragile. So there it is. That is definitely ultra micro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind it up to the radio and show you how the controls work on this. It does have a little flaw. Just a little flaw that I have to fix. Take a look here. Watch when I pull it this way. See, it bends. Oh, somebody tweaked it and cracked the foam. So I'm going to take a little teeny lightweight strip of balsa wood and I'm just going to epoxy it right down here as a reinforcement gusset on this side of the fuselage, and I should be fine. Okay. Now here's the size of the battery. Watch now as I hook up this battery, and we'll bind this up to my radio, and then I'm going to show you just how wild the controls work on this thing. And one thing I should mention, you know, anytime you're working around these electric models, you have to be a little careful when you start plugging in batteries and turning the radio on and off. If this prop takes off on its own, it could cause some serious damage to your fingertips. Also, this plane could take off in the shop right here. So watch what I do. I'm going to plug the battery in right now. And I'm going to stick it on the Velcro right here. Now I've got the binding light going. See that? That's the light flashing to bind the radio. Now before I let go of the model, I'm going to put it up like this. Okay, that's going to be just in case that prop decides to take off. I'm going to make sure my radio throttle's all the way down. Now I'll bring the radio in and hold the bind button down and turn the radio on.
Binding. DSM-2 22 milliseconds, 1024 resolution. Bind complete.
Okay, we're bound up to the proper frequency. Now I'll just hold on to it here, and I'm going to go ahead and test the throttle. This thing actually got pretty good power. Now watch the aileron throw. Can you believe that? Look at the amount of aileron, and look at the amount of elevator, and watch that rudder. Look at the rudder. You can see how crazy aerobatic this thing's going to be when I get it outside and can fly this. You know, I actually could fly it in the shop here if I didn't have any cars in here, but I think we're going to go through the learning curve outside in the grass. So as soon as the weather calms down, maybe next Saturday, we'll take this outside and we'll put it through its paces. Oops, you caught me detailing again. I can't help myself. You know, you can imagine you got a car like this, you detail it all, you get a nice coat of wax on it, and you walk up to it and you see this milky faded aluminum. I'm sure many of you watching this video know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to make this aluminum look nice. You know, it's not going to happen today. Usually when I have a car like this, I'll do a little bit every day so it doesn't like overwhelm me. But this is amazing, you know, to be able to get this aluminum trim looking like factory new really puts the finishing touches on these older Mercedes. Now it looks like I'm going to have to stop detailing. I'm looking up at the clock there, you know, it's about 3:30. We have the grandkids coming over tonight for a sleepover. Any of you grandparents out there, you know what that's like. So I'm preparing myself for some real fun tonight. So I'm going to wrap things up here in the shop this Saturday. I'm glad you could join me, and safe motoring to all of you until we see you next week.